While I try not to live with any regrets, it took me years of traveling to realize that some of the things that I was doing or not doing were making my trips and everything that goes into traveling a lot harder than it needed to be. So in today's video, I'm sharing travel habits I've picked up along the way and that I wish I had started from the very beginning. Because at this point, it's not about starting from scratch, but it's about upgrading your travels to make it work for you. Hey, I'm Kimberly, and this is KRod Collective, where I teach you how to travel solo, travel smart, and help you fall in love with Spain. The first habit is keeping all of my travel stuff organized and in one place. This has been one of the biggest stress relievers for me. I used to run around looking for my passport, travel adapters, toiletry bags, and whatever else I needed. Every trip felt like a scavenger hunt. Now I have designated travel spaces where I keep all of my travel-related things like luggages, bags, packing cubes, and accessories. I also have a ready-to-go toiletry bag and travel essentials bag. So the only thing I have to do the night before is make sure that all of my electronics are charged. This has saved me so much time in packing and has made me feel less overwhelmed and more prepared for trips. It also gives me a bit more flexibility because if I find a last-minute deal or I decide to go out of town last minute, I already know that I have things already prepared and can find things easily. So this next habit has been a bit on and off for me, and I have noticed that when it is off, it is really off. So this is something that I've been leaning into a lot more these days. If I don't write things down or I don't use a packing checklist, I end up forgetting crucial items. I wait last minute to pack, and everything just ends up feeling really chaotic and more like a burden when it really doesn't have to be that way. And then this can sometimes bleed over into my trip before the trip has even started. I recently made a video about some of my packing regrets on a recent trip to Mexico, and this is a prime example of what it looks like when I don't stay organized and use a packing list. For years, when I was planning my travels, I would pretty much start over with every new destination and just cover what I could. But creating a template has made things so much easier, and it doesn't feel like I have to reinvent the wheel with every new city that I visit. I like what I like, and that really isn't going to change. So with a template, I can just plug information in as I'm doing my research. Things like my transportation plans, sites, attractions, restaurants, museums, things like that. Having a repeatable system that I can, of course, alter and tweak depending on the destination has made trip planning so efficient and has really freed up a lot of mental space for me as well. So I can plan my trips faster and still leave a little room for spontaneity. I have learned over the years that who you travel with matters. And oftentimes, when you're with the right people, it makes the trip feel so special and unforgettable. I know that I talk a lot about solo travel on this channel, but I really do love traveling with people. And I used to say yes to traveling with people whose travel styles really didn't align with mine. And as I've gotten older, my time and my energy have become so precious to me that I am now a lot stricter with who I say yes to. Another habit I wish I had started earlier is really making my health and my body a priority regardless of where I'm traveling to. Growing up, I was a competitive soccer player and I also ran track. So moving my body has always been a big part of my life. But you know, as you get older, sometimes these things tend to fall off due to stress at work, just overall busyness. And I mean, obviously we all just went through a global pandemic. Life just gets in the way. I think for a long time, I used to treat every trip like a treat yourself moment or a total free-for-all. And while I still fully agree with leaning into those experiences, because who knows the next time you're going to be in that destination, when you travel a lot, and I'm talking more than 3 to 5 times a year, in order to take care of yourself, you have to make some small adjustments. Your body, and I mean all of it, your physical body, your mind, your organs are some of the most valuable assets that we have. And at the end of the day, your health is just one of those things that you can't replace. And if you have a clean bill of health, you have everything. I have now really begun to make my health a top priority above everything else. Therapy is a non-negotiable for me. Moving my body, cooking a lot more, eating foods that nourish my body. These are all non-negotiables for me now. So this also means doing things like bringing healthy snacks with me when I travel, or finding time to go on a long walk outside, maybe walking to a beautiful viewpoint, or going to a national park, or going to the hotel gym for 30 minutes. Making it a priority to do these things on my travels, I think, will also give me a lot more energy to enjoy my travels to the fullest. There are several trips that I can think of where if I had just rented a car, I would have been able to explore so much more. For years, I avoided renting a car because I didn't want the hassle. I didn't want the extra expense. I've also talked about how I'm a city girl and I love the freedom of using public transportation. But what I've learned, especially as I've begun my series of exploring and visiting all 50 states, is that sometimes a car can completely change the way you experience a city. Now, clearly, with some cities, you don't need to rent a car, but for some, it can give you the freedom of exploring beyond the main attractions. I also love a good road trip and stopping into small towns here and there, stopping at really nice lookout and scenic areas. There's also something about a long drive that just really brings people together. I know that there are a few friends that I've gotten a lot closer to simply because we were in the intimate setting of a car driving for hours. It really would have been nice to have that flexibility sooner. If you're loving this video so far and you're finding it helpful, definitely like this video and subscribe for more travel tips. I used to be of the mentality that if it wasn't a big adventure spanning 5 days or longer, then it wasn't really worth it. But adding micro trips to the agenda, whether it be a long weekend, a 2-day trip, a day trip, has really changed my perspective. Listen, we are all busy. I work full-time just like most of you, and sometimes you cannot get out as often as you want to. I know last year, for example, was not a big travel year for me at all, but having micro trips scattered throughout the year here and there have really added a lot of joy to my life. It still gives me a chance to travel and get out and see things, see the world, and it also helps me get away sometimes from the stress of planning a really big trip. And they can be just as memorable. Along those same lines, I also wish that I had begun exploring smaller cities earlier on in life. A majority of my adult life has been spent living in major cities, major metropolitan cities like New York and Barcelona. And I'm very positive that it will probably end up in another major city like that in the future. And I mean, I grew up in Atlanta, which is not New York, but it's not a tiny city. So I tend to just naturally gravitate towards bigger cities. I think it's just in my nature. And sometimes I have felt in the past that if I don't explore a country's major city or their biggest city, then I'm somehow missing out. But the reality is, a country has a lot more to offer than just its capital city or its biggest city. Yes, the big cities are where you get the buzz. Most of the time it's for a good reason, but I do find that some of the smaller cities is really where you find the heart and a lot of tradition. I have really been loving exploring smaller cities and slowing down my pace of life for a couple of days and learning about the distinct culture that they may have. And they are just as special and worthy of exploration. Now, as I've said, I've spent a majority of my adult life living in major metropolitan cities, and I'm also American. So the combination of those two things has helped shape a mentality that has its pros and cons. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the years and travel habits that I now put into practice is the importance of giving myself an extra day or 2 or 3 off after a trip. I'll never forget the time when I was living in Barcelona and I came to New York for a visit, and I was going back home to Barcelona. And on the flight, I fainted. I woke up in the middle of the aisle to a doctor and flight attendants around me asking me if I was okay. I was. And when I landed back in Barcelona, mind you, jet lagged, what did I do? I went to my apartment, I took a shower, and I went to work. I went to the office to work. Who does that? And in Barcelona, of all cities, a city that prides itself on slow living, I no longer do that, and I would never do that today. But this is just an example of, how I've really had to, this is a travel habit that I've really embraced. Now today, I always build in at least 1, if not 2 or 3 days after my trip to rest and recover before jumping back into work. And I don't feel guilty about it, and I make no apologies. Another travel habit that I wish I had started sooner was having a dedicated travel fund. Honestly, I think this is probably one of the smartest travel habits that I've created for myself over the years. I used to pull money every which way I could, left, right, and center, on trips, but now having a dedicated travel fund has made travel a lot easier and has also created a lot of flexibility. It's like a retirement fund, but for travel, I just put money in there every month. And when I have a trip, I know that that money is there and I'm not cutting into something that I may have budgeted for my everyday expenses. So it does take off an extra layer of financial stress. I also do this in other currencies as well using my Wise card and my Wise account. I love having a Wise account and a Wise card. It's an international debit card, international bank account where you can add different currencies from all around the world. As someone who travels to Europe quite often, throwing euros into that account on a monthly basis has really made traveling to Europe last minute pretty easy over the years. The next travel habit is something that I think just comes with age, but I have fully embraced paying extra for comfort, convenience, and a little luxury. I used to always go with the cheapest option to save money. I remember once in my 20s spending the night in the Boston airport because the first flight out, which I think was like at 5 a.m., was the cheapest flight. And I also didn't want to, or honestly, probably at that point, didn't have any money for a hotel room. And that's something that I would never do today. After too many long layovers, uncomfortable flights, and honestly treating comfort like an afterthought, I am now of the wisdom that spending a little extra money is just the smarter choice for me. Whether it's getting a nonstop flight, paying for airport lounge access, or getting an upgrade to a hotel room. Sometimes it's these little details that for me do make a trip a little bit more enjoyable. A lot of these travel habits have come from mistakes that I have made in the past. If you're interested in seeing what some of those travel mistakes are, then definitely check out this video right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.